Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a totally fascinating, highly objective, and honestly kind of provocative framework for understanding romantic dynamics. We're looking at the economic model of relationships, straight from Orion Taraban's work, The Value of Others. If you've ever felt completely baffled by the whole mating and dating game, well, this is absolutely for you. We're going to break down exactly how human attraction and relationship negotiations actually work right beneath the surface.
Okay, let's dive into this paradigm-shifting premise. Taraban makes the argument that we don't just come together out of some sheer, unexplainable magic. Fundamentally, we enter relationships to exchange things that we want but currently lack. I mean, think about it. If you and I want the exact same thing, we can't really give it to each other, right? We form bonds because we have complementary skills, resources, or attributes. So a relationship, at its very core, is literally the medium where this value transaction takes place.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to move logically from psychological theory straight into a really vivid practical metaphor. First up, the economics of relationships. Second, the covert calculator. Third, the sexual marketplace. Fourth, the three captain challenges. And finally, number 5, the 3 passenger prerogatives. Let's get to it. Part 1, the economics of relationships. Now, treating relationships like a marketplace isn't some sort of moral judgment on humanity. It's just human behavior. It might sound a bit clinical, but a relationship is precisely defined as the exchange of unequal goods of comparable value. Because we actually want different things, like maybe one person is looking for security while the other is looking for excitement, we're constantly exchanging unequal goods. But for that relationship to actually form and survive, those completely different goods have to hold a comparable subjective value to the people involved. It means every single relationship requires an ongoing, albeit sometimes covert, negotiation to make sure both people feel like they're getting a fair deal. Part 2, the covert calculator. This is where we look at the psychological mechanism behind all this economics, the unconscious math our brains are doing every single second. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the disconnect. Deep within our minds, there's this massive unconscious calculator, constantly weighing costs, benefits, and probabilities. But here's the big aha moment. We don't actually feel that clinical robotic math. Our brain just seamlessly transmutes it into a single, undeniable human emotion, and that is desire. So when you get that feeling of, oh wow, I really need this person, that is literally just your unconscious calculator telling you it found a highly valuable asset for your current goals. But why does this internal calculator get so messy? Why does it sometimes lead us completely astray? Well, first, there's goal conflation. We're out here wanting sex, security, and friendship, all from one single person. That makes finding a perfect match incredibly rare. Second, shifting needs. The traits you value in a partner when you're 20 are probably going to be totally different by the time you're 40. And finally, flawed training data. Just like a machine learning algorithm, our relationship calculator is trained on the data we observed in our childhood homes. If that early data was dysfunctional, your brain's algorithm will literally be wired to desire the wrong things. So how is this value negotiated in the real world? We have these highly complex, sometimes kind of flawed emotional calculators running in our heads. But we don't live in a vacuum. We have to take those internal desires out into the external world. Let's look at how this plays out in real time. Part 3, the sexual marketplace. This is the overarching setting where this whole game of mating and dating actually takes place. You might think this marketplace only exists on dating apps or at a loud nightclub. But the reality? The sexual marketplace is functionally coincident with the social world. It is literally everywhere. Any 2 adults can initiate a relationship at any time. You really can't opt out of it. And to help us navigate this, Taraban uses a brilliant metaphor. Imagine the marketplace as this busy dock or a pier, where 2 very distinct roles meet up to negotiate passage. On this dock, you've got captains and you've got passengers. Captains stand by their ships, trying to attract passengers on board, and they're seeking good compensation for the journey. Passengers, on the other hand, walk the pier. They're inspecting the ships, looking for the cheapest, safest passage to a specific destination. Now, while historically these roles have been highly gendered, technically they're completely neutral. The big takeaway here is that everyone, and I mean everyone, is born a passenger by default. You remain a passenger until you put in the immense, years-long work to transform yourself into a captain. Part 4, the 3 captain challenges. Now we're shifting to the specific, actionable steps required to actually become a captain, which is a process that can take up to 10 years of focused effort.
You have to complete 3 specific challenges in order: build a boat, learn to sail, and plot a course. So the crucial point is, if you skip any of these steps, you are not a captain. You're maybe a mariner or, honestly, just a pretender play acting on the dock. To command real authority and actually attract passengers, you absolutely must master all 3. So let's break them down. Challenge number 1 is to build a boat. Now, in our lives, a ship is a metaphor for a lifestyle. It's the container that you're going to spend your life in, and it's the exact environment you'll be inviting a partner into. To build this boat, you need tangible resources, mainly money or currency, but you also need an accurate knowledge of reality to make sure your boat actually floats. You're trying to create an emotionally compelling lifestyle that you can comfortably live in and safely host someone else in. Once you've got your boat, challenge 2 is you have to learn to sail. Look, everyone is a great sailor in calm seas, right? But it takes actual, genuine skill to navigate the rough waters of a long-term relationship. This requires developing overarching self-mastery. In the sexual marketplace, that means cultivating seduction, which is the ability to intentionally incite and direct interest, and mastering frame management. That's your ability to maintain your boundaries and keep the negotiated structure intact, even when things get rocky. Then, challenge 3 is you must plot a course. An unanchored ship that's just sitting beautifully in the harbor is totally useless. A captain has to have a destination, and that translates to a compelling life mission. Having a real purpose gives you the resilience to withstand the inevitable pain of life. And crucially, knowing exactly where you're going prevents the passenger from commandeering your vessel. You only invite people aboard who actually want to go where you are headed.
Part 5. The 3 passenger prerogatives. Let's shift our focus over to the other side of the dock and explore how the passenger actually evaluates all of the captain's hard work.
While captains have challenges, passengers have prerogatives. These are rights they get to exercise before they ever step foot on a ship. Inspect the ship, test the captain, and examine the itinerary. Keep in mind, these are entirely optional. A passenger could just blindly jump on a boat if they really wanted to. But savvy passengers actively use these 3 steps to filter out the charlatans. It ensures their highly limited time and emotional resources are invested safely.
The very first prerogative is inspect the ship. You have to remember that much of this selection process happens before the captain even says hello. Passengers are constrained by time, so they rely heavily on external proxies and visual filters. Like, is there a crowd around this captain? Are they popular? They evaluate the captain's physical appearance, their communication, their overall marketing. And finally, they try to peek into the interior lifestyle to see if a spot actually exists in there just for them. Which leads us to the second prerogative, testing the captain. And this brilliantly illustrates the dynamic if you compare it to roughing up a car on a test drive. You step on the gas, you slam the brakes, you intentionally stress it out to see if it holds together. Passengers do the exact same thing to a captain's character. They'll create arbitrary stress on land, maybe being a bit flaky or demanding, just to check the captain's responsiveness and emotional stability. They need to uncover any latent flaws before setting sail and getting stuck out at sea.
The final prerogative is examine the itinerary. Now, you'd think a passenger could just ask, hey, where are we going? But in human relationships, direct questioning rarely works. Why? Because humans use pretending as a standard negotiation tactic. Instead, a smart passenger will ignore direct stated intentions and deduce the captain's actual goals by observing their behavior over time. They have to confirm that the voyage truly aligns with their own desired destination.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a beautifully interconnected system. Notice the perfect symmetry in this marketplace framework. The captain's challenge to build a boat is matched exactly by the passenger's right to inspect it. Learning to sail perfectly prepares the captain for the passenger's tests, and plotting a course is what allows the passenger to examine the itinerary. Every single passenger right relies entirely on a captain's prior effort. It's an amazing dynamic. So why does analyzing romance through such a structural economic lens actually matter? Well, as Taraban notes, we can truly only love to the depth of our understanding. When we understand these impartial economic laws, we stop taking our rejections or our fluctuating desires so personally. It drastically reduces our relationship suffering and it increases our genuine empathy, both for ourselves and for the partners we ultimately choose to sail with. I want to leave you with a thought to really chew on. We learned earlier that your internal desire calculator is running on old training data from your past. So if your relationship algorithm is currently biased by flawed data, what new high-quality data are you going to actively seek out today to reprogram your future?
It's time to step out onto the dock, clearly see the marketplace for what it is, and start building the lifestyle that will attract the exact right passenger or captain into your life. Thanks for hanging out for this explainer, and we will see you next time.